All right. Well, here we are. Let's get rolling. Welcome to season 4. We're up to episode number 5 of Global Radio Ideas webinar. And it's good to see you again. We took an extended summer break, but we're back today with probably our youngest guest to date and best dressed guest to date. We'll introduce him in a moment. My name is Ken Benson from the P1 Media Group, and joining us today from Germany, the head of Benztown, Andy Sanneman.
Hey guys, so thanks so much for joining us today, everyone. So this is today's webinar, checking in on the world's first AI presenter. That's not the guy you've seen over there, that's somebody else. Is this radio's future? That's the question like we're gonna wrestle with today. The chat box is activated, guys. So let us know where you're watching, if you haven't already. And if you have a question, type it in there, post it. Our guest will be answering all your questions later after the show.
All right, so let's tell you about our guest and give him a proper introduction. He hails from Minneapolis, Minnesota, started his radio career interning for the Dave Ryan Morning Show at KDWB, which is a legendary station. And I think Dave's been doing that morning show now for probably close to 30 years, I would think. Really a great show. He then went on to become a music director and afternoon DJ at KFRX in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then on to WZPL in Indianapolis, all legendary CHR stations in the Midwest of the United States. And then he became the program director for Magic in Colorado Springs. He's also a very good on-air presenter and host of the night show for Westwood One's country format, spanning 27 stations across the U.S. In the summer of 22, he joined CHR Live 95.5 in Portland, Oregon as the content director, and he's made news ever since he created the world's first AI radio presenter over the summer. That's really going to be the focus today. So joining us live and in person, not the AI version of our guest today.
Who knows?
Maybe it is, right? Let's welcome Dylan Salisbury from Portland, Oregon.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I appreciate that introduction.
The nice thing about a younger guy, it wasn't as long as some of the ones we have to do.
It's brief.
Still things to come. Things to come.
Hopefully,
welcome,
Dylan. Welcome. How this call goes, this webinar. Hopefully, that resume will expand. But
for sure.
Well, I guess we need a new guy in AI because you can't teach the old dogs like us new tricks. So
yes, you can.
Yes, you could.
This is so cool. I mean, you guys have told me about, how global this is, but seeing everybody in the chat, Ukraine, St. Lucia, Bahrain, I couldn't even tell you where Bahrain is on a map. So this is so cool. And of course, John Cruz from South Bend, go Irish. So that's so cool.
Well, Bahrain, is in the Middle East.
Okay.
Also, we're touching almost all the continents today. We got Finland on, we have Nigeria, and many others. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, so cool. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So Dylan, let's jump right into it. So obviously, thanks for being here. And before we go deep into the nitty-gritty of AI, so let's begin by telling us something people may not know about you.
Yeah, so this was I couldn't choose. I'm kind of indecisive. So in my little square, you saw that I was in front of the Grammys, which are the Recording Academy backdrop. I'm a member of the Recording Academy. The last one was me with is it Butch Patrick, who used to be Eddie Munster on what was it, Addams Family? Is that what that
Munsters.
is? The Munsters. So, but I was dressed in a Pope outfit, and I thought that was a perfect picture for me to say that I'm an ordained minister. And then this one was funny because the fact about me is I own a share or a stock in the Green Bay Packers. When they, put their team out for public. I'm not a Packer fan, but I do own stock in the Packers. But this one's funny because this is a tie into radio, because this is when I went to WIXX to interview for, I think it was an either night or overnight position while I was still in Minneapolis. And I did so horribly that I not only did not get the job, but they chose somebody else to go with. And luckily for them, because I tanked really bad. But that's a funny picture to represent me owning a share in the Packers.
So I retract my statement that you're a good air talent. So
yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but when you did the introduction and said good on air talent, I did one of these. So yeah.
All right. So you've been making a lot of noise the last couple of months. You're the first guy to launch an AI DJ, and of course, earlier this year when Daniel and Standeg at Futuri started talking about radio GPT, it made big waves in our industry, not all good, and we'll talk about some of that today. But let's talk about AI, Ashley. You know, everybody had the opportunity to be the first. Why did you decide to do it, and how did she come to life?
Yeah, so it all came to life basically when opportunity met innovation, and for us specifically, Ashley had an opportunity to become the first to become a PD for the first time, and although we didn't want to hold her back from that, we also didn't want to disrupt a key day part on the radio station. So we planned to have her continue voice tracking middays on live, but as all of us know, that voice tracking does come with limitations. So we've kind of been experimenting on how we can use it to be more timely and topical and local, because we're still having Ashley track every day, and she tracks at 10 o'clock our time because luckily she's on Eastern time. But sometimes she does have other obligations as a PD and as a morning show host in Traverse City, to where she can't be there to give us updates as we may need them. So we've been using AI Ashley to kind of fill in that void, to where some of the shortcomings with her other job, may disrupt being live and local here in Portland. So it was a perfect storm of Ashley getting a career-changing opportunity, while we get to stick to one of our core values at Alpha, which is to constantly innovate. So that's
awesome. So how does it work, Dylan? Like, how do you program AI Ashley?
Yeah, so a lot of people like to think she's a robot, and she kind of is. That's half right. But it's more of an extension of what we're already doing and have always done. We're using specific features of Futuri's Radio GPT, many of which we came up with here in our team in Portland. But it's a full end-to-end system where we can identify the right content for our audience that can script it, can voice it, and load it in automatically for playback. And we work closely with Futuri and Ashley herself to make sure the tone, expressiveness, and her voice is as close to what it can be. And I got to give a huge shout out to Futuri, because cloning a voice is immensely difficult, because you already have inflection, you already have tone, you already have personality traits with a voice you already know, to where if we were to just come on with a synthetic voice, somebody you didn't know, there's not really anything to compare it to. So, and especially we've found out that cloning female voices is much more difficult than cloning a male voice, because we don't talk with as much emotion or inflection as females typically do. So we've been just hammering away and trying to make it, as good as possible. And it's become, pretty good. Obviously there's still room for improvement, but, and unlike what some others might intend to use AI for, we're both using, AI Ashley and traditional human Ashley to give ourselves, options for what to use. Like kind of I mentioned before, trying to use her
traditional
Ashley Z when she can, but if not, we can always, hop in and program the robot, if you will.
I guess it's more difficult if you know the voice already, voice cloning. I mean, we played around with it a lot too. And is it voice to text? Sorry if I'm asking voice to text, or can you do voice to voice with that system too?
Yeah, so it's text to voice. That's one of the options. So on the back end, there's basically
you type in and okay.
Yeah, so I'll explain it. There's basically there's two ways to do AI Ashley, to program her. So there's the automated version, to where you basically put in prompts or break notes, which we as radio people typically use as like a liner card, right? So we'll say, all right, we want you to say, it's AI Ashley, talk about the Disneyland resort and, the call to action, whether it's texting, whether it's, online entries. But that's one automated version. And then it will use AI to come up with a different break, like a completely
with the content and everything. Okay.
Yeah. So it'll come up with a break on its own. And we can jump in and say, all right, she wouldn't say that. Let's take this part out. Let's take this part out, and so on and so forth. And then there's that kind of to what you're saying, Andy. There's it's called perform a script, and that's just me writing in, hey, it's AI Ashley, win a trip to the Disneyland resort. Da 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 da. What I like about the automated version, even though we may not air that version, is it'll bring something to the table that I won't say or that I wouldn't think of. So there's two ways to program it. Most of which up until this point have been performer scripts, because one of the big problems with AI, not necessarily at Radio GPT, but Chat GPT as well, one of the shortcomings is if you've ever played with it, it only is updated to a certain point of the internet.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask it about, why didn't Taylor Swift show up to the Chiefs game in Minnesota? It's going to say, oh, we only know up until, October of 2020 or whatever it is. So that was one of the shortcomings. But now Radio GPT and Futuri have been working endlessly to make sure it's more up to date with, artist information.
Okay. So I'm sure after our webinar today, many people are going to go to live955.com to stream the station and hear AI Ashley and see what it's all about. My understanding is that during her show, sometimes she's doing live recorded breaks as a human and other breaks are AI. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, how does the audience react to this? Do they know sometimes she's AI, sometimes she's not? Has there been any, negative backlash to artificial, let's say, Ashley?
Yeah. So the audience, our traditional listener here in Portland, hasn't really given any negative feedback. Maybe it's because they haven't realized it yet. I mean, as we all know, radio listeners are typically not, that involved, especially outside of morning drive. They're not listening as hard as they might be in morning or PM drive. So maybe they just haven't realized it, or they just haven't really cared. They want to know, do we have any Olivia Rodrigo tickets? Did we have any Taylor Swift tickets? But yeah, we haven't really been met with any sort of negative feedback from the traditional Portland listener. And as far as, AI Ashley versus Ashley Z, or the real one, as some people say, we always disclose that it's AI Ashley when it's AI Ashley. We never try to hide it. Because here's the thing, if we, start putting AI content on the air and not disclosing that it's AI, that hurts us and harms our relationship with our audience, with our advertisers. But if we disclose it and bring the audience in on the project with us, then, because then we're able to give them more timely content because we have the AI capabilities, then everybody wins. So
Dylan, if I'm listening to AI Ashley on Live 95.5 or Ashley Z, how do you disclose? How do I know when she's live and when she's AI?
Yeah, so if she's AI, the break will always disclose it. Now, typically, like in our break notes, in our back end, we always, one of the features is the open, right? So every time we say, hey, it's AI Ashley, or it's AI Ashley, and then she'll start the break. So we always disclose that it's AI Ashley. We have never once aired a break from AI Ashley and didn't didn't put that little disclaimer at the front. So,
and do you
that's
think
an
that's
interesting
important?
strategy.
Yeah, is that important? Something that you think you need to do forever, or just now in the early stages?
That's a great question. I haven't thought of that. Moving forward, when it becomes more acceptable and it's not as people aren't casting as many stones. I don't know. I haven't thought I'm going to think about that one. But at this point, we don't want anybody, whether it's our listener, whether it's the industry or our advertisers, we never want them to feel like we're pulling the wool over their eyes. We want them to really trust us, and because one of the core values here at Alpha is honesty and integrity, really. So we want to be honest and upfront as we can with everybody, especially at this very touchy time in our industry with a topic like AI. So I'm going to think about that a little bit, because I don't know. Will there ever be a time where it's okay for us to not disclose AI? Maybe when everybody's doing it, and everybody understands that AI is just a part of our industry, then maybe. But for the time being, we're going to disclose it every time.
Yeah, I mean, AI is such a big part of our life already without us recognizing. So, I mean, I totally agree with you there. So the industry's reaction to AI, actually, has not been as kind as the reaction of your listeners. So, in fact, some of the reactions that I've seen on the internet have been like personal, and I don't want to say like cruel, but like almost. So something, maybe you're a hero because you're like a pioneer in that AI model. Well, most of you think you're evil and like taking all the jobs away. So tell us a little bit, for me, it's interesting how you feel in terms of like about the industry's reaction. Like, how do you personally feel about the reaction of the industry you love so much?
Yeah, by the way, shitty radio jock, I love that guy or girl, whoever it is. I love them. So when it comes to the industry, we took a lot of flack for using AI actually early on, and I get it, because change is scary, especially when it comes to our livelihood, right? Daniel from Futurity said something that I think is really on point. Several broadcasters have projected their frustrations about 25 years of radio downsizing and consolidation on AI. So we don't take it personally, and we know that our early adoption of AI will, knock on wood, age well, in the long run. We've also been approached by a number of people in the industry too, who want to learn more about AI and how we're using it effectively. And there's a lot of smart people that are setting aside their fears and realizing that we need to embrace AI, because like you said, it's already here. It's already around us, outside of radio. Everyone is using it, whether it's, Alexa reminding you to, order dog bones because it's been 2 months and, you typically order them every, month or whatever it is, or, getting you to your destination via roadmaps. So AI is not going anywhere. It's just not. It's a part of our lives, and it's going to be for the future. So, trying to use it the best we can, to make our jobs easier, as we already wear so many hats. That's what we're trying to do here. And for me, it's the fun part, right? Writing the book. There's no direction. There is no roadmap. Because when I got into radio, there was already.
Yeah, it's starting like a new. It's like starting a new station like from scratch. I think that's the interesting part. Like writing like totally new, like you said, like a totally new book, like with the help of an external mentor. I think it's great.
Yeah, because when I got into radio, there was already commandments. There was already unwritten rules of radio that I'm still learning to this day. But now I get to help write the book and set the standards for our industry. And I'm very lucky and fortunate to be able to do it, with a company, from my standpoint with like Alpha Media, where honesty and integrity is so, it's a core value for us. So. But here's the thing is, jocks didn't have a problem using AI to do those AI yearbooks on social media. but they have a problem when it's a jock or a voice on the air. But again, like we completely understand it. I think, in preparation for this video, I sent a little clip to Ken and Andy. It's basically, I think it's a 60-minute interview of Elon Musk talking about commercial spaceflight. And you can just see on it, as he said that Neil Armstrong was casting stones about commercial spaceflight, and you could see him almost well up and tear in the eye because, his peers and people he looked up to were very harsh and judgmental. And man, did I feel that when we first started AI. But later in that video, if you want to go check it out, he says, he understands because they don't see it. They don't play with it. They don't understand it. So I think the more that we understand it and play with it and realize it's not here to replace us, that's when people are going to start to wade in the water and let their guard down.
Yeah, those are all fair points, Dylan. I agree with that. Obviously, there's a lot of fear amongst talent around the world. I mean, that their jobs are at risk. There's all kinds of news stories. In fact, I saw the father of AI interviewed about a week and a half ago on 60 Minutes. And I've heard figures in this range, 300 million jobs will be destroyed, not just in radio, but every industry is going to be affected by AI in the coming years.
For sure.
There will be some job loss. I just want to seg for a second to a question that came in from Marty Whitney. And usually we save these to the end, but I just think it's relevant right now. And his question is, from a talent perspective, what skills do we need to learn to stay relevant and keep our jobs?
Regarding AI?
Yeah, regarding AI, what do we do? I mean, or should they just start training for a new field,
Well, any skills outside of AI, I can't help you there. I don't have any of those. But no, for AI, Phil and I, my boss here, we like to say, jocks will not get replaced by AI. They will get replaced by jocks who use AI. So I think that, in order to keep your job, you have to embrace it just like anything.
Yeah.
And how would you recommend that? I mean, you've got talent at Live 95.5. Only one is doing some AI. So, what do you tell these people on, they need to embrace it, but what does that mean? How do they do that? How does a skill become a part of their DNA and make them more marketable in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like anything else. It's just like a show prep service that you rely heavily on. At one point, people were picking up the newspaper and reading what was happening in their town, long before I started radio. But otherwise, but people are also going out and experiencing life, and that added to their personality. That's kind of what you need to do with AI, is just embrace it, let it become a part of you. So I think that's going to be the biggest key to success. I mean, the earlier you get in, the more you're going to know and the more it's going to benefit you.
So it's not something a talent should fear. It's something they should embrace.
Absolutely. 100%. If you're a jock that's mailing it in and relying heavily on, national show prep or having a good voice, there's going to be a problem. Because there's too much competition for our ears and for our eyes to be getting away with content that doesn't add any value for the listener. But here's the thing: if you're a smart, hardworking, creative, talented programmer, and you figure out how to make AI work for you, you got nothing to worry about. Everybody should be thinking that AI is an assistant.
Yeah, I also think for now it's really a system. I mean, let's see where the system is going to go and how these systems are going to develop. I mean, I think we honed in on the next question already, like how should radio in general and as a whole be viewing AI? I think, like you said it perfectly, like to embrace it and to work with it and try to grow with it is kind of like the only strategy, right? I mean, it's the only way to go. So,
yeah. So let's talk about AI. Obviously, brand new technology. I think Futuri released their version of Radio GPT back in February to a lot of fanfare and fear. And you've been working with it now since probably, if I remember, April or May, and been on the air with it for a few months already. And everyone says, well, AI tomorrow is better than AI today. How much has it improved so far? And is it ready for prime time? Because that's a complaint I hear from people. Yeah, I've heard their stream and it's okay, but it's not great yet.
Yeah, so I feel like AI improves on a daily basis. I mean, it is generative learning, right? It is constantly improving and getting better. And that's not specific to Radio GPT. That's just AI in general, right? With Radio GPT, Futuri has worked with us as a partner, and they want our feedback on improvements as their beta partner. So we've been constantly just hammering Futuri, change this, do this. And they just want it to be as perfect as possible. Is it ready for prime time? I think so. Yeah, I think, but like to fly on its own, maybe not, but to be in addition to what you're already doing, absolutely.
So to follow up with Daniel and Standig, again, he and his company created Radio GPT. We had him as a guest around April in this webinar series.
Yeah.
And he made what I felt was a really bold prediction on that webinar. He sees a day where an AI morning show will compete with a human morning show. Do you believe that day will come at some point?
Well, you never want to say never, right? Especially with how smart and sophisticated and AI is. But again, I don't know. It'd be really interesting to laugh or to cry and to realize that AI, not a real person, made you do it. But ultimately, isn't it the same thing? If you can feel emotion from something, does it matter who wrote it or where it came from? The feeling is still real. So, I would be very interested to hear AI morning show that can make me laugh or cry.
It's going to be personalized. Down the road, it's going to be even personalized for you. It's going to make you laugh or cry personalized. I think that's kind of like the ultimate goal, right? I mean, these systems learn so quick. They learn so fast. They have access to a lot of more information than the regular program director, human being, however you want, will have. I think it's more, like we said, is an ethical question, right? Is it the same emotion if a computer basically evokes that emotion in me, or is it just the real emotion is like a human being is evoking that in me? I think that's kind of like the ethical question behind it. But I think you've gotten so many questions, right, in the last couple of months about that topic. So, I mean, what is your advice in general for programmers about AI?
And so if you run, a small AI experiment, here and there, and it doesn't work, you don't call it off, right? Because like you said, Ken, we've been working with this for months and we're still not there. We're still progressing. I think it's kind of like fashion, like it's always going to change. It's always going to progress and get better. So I feel strongly in the next few months, you're going to see broadcasters, hiring persons whose sole responsibility is to become their company's AI specialist. So I think you really just have to embrace it.
Right.
Because
so,
I think AI can and will create job opportunities.
So like we have a webmaster, that was a big position, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago. Right now, we will have an AI specialist on the programming team?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Because there is a lot that goes into it, especially right now, as people are learning about it, as they're getting hands-on. There is a lot of work that goes into AI. So I think eventually there will be an AI, just like there's, digital sales now, along with, traditional terrestrial radio sales. I think that's going to be a new department in radio.
Okay. So we have a lot of questions coming in and not a lot of time. So I would like to get to those. We are speaking with Dylan Salisbury. He's the content director of Live 95.5 in Portland, Oregon. and the creator of the world's first AI radio presenter, AI Ashley. And you can hear her on live955.com. So Dylan, if it's okay with you, we're going to grab a few questions that are in the chat box. And of course, if you have something to add, please put it on in there. So one question comes from an old radio friend of mine, Tito Lopez in Colombia, South America. Are there any radio GPT stations different from Live 95 that they can listen to? And specifically, since he is in South America, is there anyone doing it in Spanish that you know of?
Oh, this is so cool. I love this question. So I know that there was another beta company, I believe maybe it was in Canada that was playing with it. But I don't know that anybody have actually hit the air with it. Tito, to your second part of that question, I don't think that there's any Spanish radio GPT station, but this is one of the features that I really wanted to talk about. Is there's a translation feature part of AI Ashley. So not only with voices, there's a dozen languages, but for my specific jock, there's a translation feature where she can speak German, Polish, French, Spanish, Italian.
I want to hear the German version. I really want to hear the German version. Have her say something in German and send it to me now. It's funny.
Okay, I will do that. Portuguese, Hindi, with a click of a few buttons. So for Cinco de Mayo, I could have AI Ashley speak completely in Spanish. Now, I failed Spanish, and I took 3 years. So I am not the right guy to monitor AI Ashley and what she's saying in Spanish. So I would not be airing her that way, but to know that that's an option is super cool. And I did take 1 year of German, failed miserably. So I won't have her speak German either. But I will type out a script and have her I'll send it to you, Andy, to see how far off it is.
I appreciate that. So I think Tito should be the first one trying it in Spanish, as we wanted the real talk was embrace it. So Tito, embrace it, try it out, play around with it. I think John Cruz has a good question too. What would you say are any cons on AI?
Yeah. So, and I'm going to go back to Tito real quick. Just like I'm going to send the German version to you, Andy. If you guys want to hit me with Tito's email, I'm going to do the exact same script that I send to you in German. I'm going to do it in Spanish and see, hopefully we can see what it sounds like.
Absolutely. I think that'd be cool.
So back to who was it? John?
The cons.
John with the cons. So yeah, the con right now, I should say there was 2 major flaws with AI Ashley. There was getting her to sound like the real Ashley, which Futuri's done a phenomenal job. If you guys heard the first version of Ashley, I mean, it sounded nothing like her at all. And even when we put out the clip of her talking to a listener, she still sounded flat. I'll be the first to admit she didn't sound, like the real Ashley. But I mean, like I said, it is improving literally every single day. So now to this point, the version we have with Ashley, I doubt most of you, because you don't know Ashley, wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And our listeners who are only half listening anyway, they're not going to be able to tell the difference at all. But that doesn't stop us from, staying integrity based and saying that, hey, this is the real Ashley.
I mean, voice synthesis. Sorry for interrupting. Voice synthesis have been becoming so good within the last 6 to 12 months. Is insane. Right. I mean, it's fantastic. If you're not an expert, you really can't hear the difference. This is impossible.
Yeah, and especially if you don't know who that voice is supposed to sound like in the first place, with a synthetic voice. And for anybody that may have missed it the first time, there's 2 different types of AI voices. There's cloned voice, where we take a voice that already exists and match it, and then there's a synthetic voice, which is just a completely made up voice from AI. But yeah, I would say figuring out the cloning of the voice If that's the route you're going to go, that was the con or a hurdle that I think we're pretty close, probably at 95, 98% perfected with Ashley. And the other con was time. Like I saw, in one of the radio groups, I think it was on Facebook, somebody made the comment like, it takes longer to program AI Ashley than it does to just cut the break itself.
Yeah.
And they are 100% correct.
Absolutely.
When you use, here's the caveat, when you use perform a script. Because here's the thing, guys. I mean, you got to go back and forth because she may have an inflection that sounds weird, or she may mispronounce a word that you have to go back and correct. So when it comes to perform a script, it is not time friendly at all to do that. Now, on the other hand, when there's the break notes automated feature that is, I would say, 90% there, we're that close to letting it fly on its own. That is automatic. I mean, you put that in schedule like you do on your clock, like you would a voice track, and at 55 after for the upcoming hour, it'll update every hour and give you a new timely break. So that part has been a con up until this point, but we are very close for that to not be a con anymore. But that has been the bane of my existence since April, is trying to work with Futuri and get that. And also another con that I just now thought of, but kind of going back to what we mentioned before, is just the struggle of GPT, not radio GPT, but chat GPT as well, is just the struggle of trying to keep it updated with the internet, that it seems to have has a like a blind spot almost for recent events. But again, Futuri has been phenomenal, and they're doing wonders with artist information that seems to be timely.
So Dylan, just to follow up on your point, because I was actually talking to a friend of mine in Australia yesterday afternoon about the upcoming webinar, and he said some friends of his that were experimenting with AI and overnights just found exactly what you said, that it takes longer to program AI than a voice track. And also it wound up costing more because the service has an expense to it as well. Do you see a day where that reverses and where the benefits outweigh the expense or added time?
I think eventually, like I said, I don't think we are at the point of completely automated AI DJs yet, which I feel okay with because it's so early on and I don't really want it doing its own thing yet, going rogue at this point. So I'm okay with that, but eventually there'll be a time where it doesn't take nearly as long. So I think eventually we'll get there.
Okay. So let me ask you just a couple other, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, but to your point, Ken, I mean, at this point, it hasn't been, a lot of the flack we've been getting is, oh, you're trying to fire people and cut costs. And like you just said, it is not time nor resource friendly to use AI. We are truly embracing it because we believe that it is here today and it'll be here tomorrow. And we can use it to our benefit as a tool in addition to Ashley, not replacing Ashley.
I think that's beautiful words. I'm trying. To like draw a line in the sand here on that matter. I think it's fantastic. I think that'd be great. I know, Ken, you're like lurking at some of the other questions.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to everybody's question here.
Yeah, bring them on. Like whatever.
Okay,
we have time
so
for.
We have a question from Abdul, and I think this might answer a few people's questions. He's asking, how do you program AI to host and interview a guest on a live show? Is that even possible at this point, or that down the road?
Yeah, so we have kind of done that. I don't know if you guys have seen our AI Bryce interview that we did downstairs in the lounge, but we cloned Bryce Vine's voice and had him interview himself based on the cloned voice of himself and the AI generating questions for himself. So we can do that. We haven't yet for AI Ashley, but we most certainly could.
Okay. And I guess a related question, you touched on emotion earlier, which may be the most challenging thing to really work into AI. So they say, for example, and this is a question from Joel, if there's a Taylor Swift sighting, it'll be one emotion level. If there's a fire, shooting, crash, that's a whole nother emotional level. How do you account for that? Do you have to slot in SSML codes or something else?
First off, what is an SSML code?
I thought you would know because you're the expert.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. But to that point, yeah, AI Ashley doesn't have feeling yet, right? I would imagine that perspective is going to be there one day for AI. But for now, it's got to be me or whoever's programming her. So we have to be able to obviously read the obvious situation of whether it's Taylor Swift's or whether it's, a school shooting. And
SSML code is speech synthesis markup language. Is a complicated thing for a German guy to read. So it's basically making a request to the machine, basically to speak in a different manner, right? To basically write a prompt about the inflection, I guess. That's what it is. Like set a marker where she should change, kind of like, or speak in a certain manner, basically typing, hey, Ashley, please, like be very emotional, almost sad, but not crying, and you say blah, blah, blah. I think it's more like marking like the specific prompt. Like I think SSML would be like automated, but you would have to basically do this manually. So that's at least what I can figure out on the internet right now.
And thank you, Andy, for saying that, because as you're setting up a voice in Radio GPT, you can not only select male, female, Hindi, German, Portuguese. You also input age, so that gives it perspective. And there's also traits that we go with as well. So one of the traits that we currently have for Ashley is enthusiastic, because we're trying to counter her being a little flat. But we can, I believe somber, is one of the traits that you can click as well. So in the case of, fire, a car crash, or a shooting, you can go in and click, okay, Ashley, for this one, we have to be somber and, sad as we're talking about, a tragedy that's happening.
Great. Well, let's get to maybe one more question and we'll wrap things up. Charlie Sharp wants to know, and if you can even tell, has Radio GPT had any effect on your numbers, your ratings, either up or down?
We haven't seen an effect in our ratings. We've remained pretty consistent in our ratings. Even in middays, it's kind of remained pretty much the same. And again, I don't know if that's because the listeners already assume we're using AI and just don't care, or they just haven't realized it yet. And we haven't been able to invoke an emotion, good or bad, from them. So
I think you would need research on that matter, right? You would basically need to have like a focus group or ask people like, have you realized that we're using AI? And then you could technically make the production a little bit more prominent, so it would stick out more, or explain it in production elements that people really, because my question would be, do people really understand what AI Ashley is compared to Ashley's? It's going to be really interesting if you ever have data to this to share that, like if you maybe conduct a research or something to see how many people have already like recognized something is different here, because I think a lot of people would not even realize.
Right, and thank you for saying that, Andy, because that brings another point up. Is right now there's not been a whole lot of character development for AI Ashley.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get her to sound like Ashley Z as much as possible, and something that we have, kind of on the books, eventually, is to develop a character for AI Ashley, whether she's going to be like, how Sour Patch Kids, they're naughty, then they're nice, or they're sour, then they're sweet. Maybe eventually Ashley Z is going to be our sweet midday on-air host. And then eventually AI Ashley is going to be, the host that goes rogue and plays, country music or rock music in middays and gives away all the tickets. That also is probably going to help people differentiate between who's AI Ashley and who's not, based on character, other than just the little disclaimer we currently have.
It's like an alter ego. Like an alter ego. An alter ego would be really interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, that's something we're thinking about playing with, because it's a tool and we're trying to use it, as so.
Well, Dylan, I want to wrap up here with a comment from Dan Hotchkiss, who says, "This has been exceptional. Thank you for sharing your insight."
Thanks, Dan.
And we'd like to add to that, thank you for being a pioneer.
Yeah, of course. It's not
always easy to be the first. It's not easy. As you know, you've taken probably more negatives from the industry than positives.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You get up every morning and you continue to move it ahead. And that's great.
Yeah, my dogs still like me for some reason. I don't know why, but they still think I'm okay. Dan, thank you for saying that. There was just a couple quick things I wanted to add. I've been very excited about this webinar and this opportunity because, you've got people from all over the world here. And, I feel like oftentimes when change comes from America, it's often seen as a problem. When it originates from outside of America, it is viewed as progress. So if you were to tell programmers that, stations in London and Paris and Oslo and Dubai were experimenting with AI, I feel like, at least here in America, we would be a little more open to the fact of, using it, as opposed to it coming from here in Portland, to where there's probably some hidden agenda and we're coming for everybody's jobs. And that's the other part I wanted to say thank you for is, I appreciate you letting me get on here, because like everybody that's viewing this now and everybody that'll view it afterwards, I love radio. I don't want to see any of my peers go away. I want radio to grow, and I want radio to be embraced moving forward in the future. So I'm doing my best here as an advocate for AI, on behalf of somebody who loves radio and loves being a programmer and loves being on the air. I want to help everybody embrace it, because I think it's going to really help us out. Whether that be, like, for an example, a real example, we have something called Morning Show Boot Camp here in the United States. I don't know, Andy, or if you guys are aware of that, but it's so Ashley went to the Morning Show Boot Camp, and she's like, "Okay, I'm leaving for Morning Show Boot Camp. Do you want me to track, the 3 days I'll be out?" And I said, "No, don't worry about it. AI Ashley will be on for you. You go enjoy boot camp, and you don't have to worry about it." So AI can really work for us. We all have way too many hats as it is. Whether it be going to Morning Show Boot Camp, or somebody getting sick, or, a weekend shift that you have to do begrudgingly, that you don't get paid any extra, or, you don't get bonused on. Companies can use this to give that time back to their Monday through Friday hosts, so that they can, go and create real local content, whether it be a station event or just, spending extra time with their families. So, thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of this. And, it was truly an honor.
Well, we appreciate having you, and thank you for being so open and honest. There's some information on the screen if you'd like to email Dylan or hear his radio station. And I believe AI Ashley is on Pacific time, weekdays from 10 to 3 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thanks so much, Dylan.
So thanks.
Thank you guys for having me. Again, I really appreciate it. And I'm here for everyone else that has comments, questions, concerns. I'm happy to answer anything you have.
Okay. Well, thanks again. And we want to thank Robbie, our producer. Also want to let you know if you want to see this video again or share it, it will be available tomorrow on the P1 Media Group and Benztown branding websites, also on our YouTube channels and social. So feel free to watch it again and share it with whomever you like. And you can see the entire Global Radio Ideas webinar series on demand anytime at the p1mediagroup.com, as well as the other places I just mentioned, including the one we did back in the spring with the creator of Radio GPT, which might be interesting to watch. We're back in November. We'll have the dates to you soon. We've got another great guest planned. We're just waiting for confirmation on dates, so we're just hold that back. So keep an eye on your emails and social in about a month's time, and you'll get all the information on that. So on behalf of the P1 Media Group, Benztown, and our guest, Dylan Salisbury from Live 95.5, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, fellas.